Aside from the main takeaway from Thursday's debate, which is that Biden was utterly incoherent, everyone was pretty surprised that CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash did a relatively good job moderating the presidential debate. In fact, it looks like CNN actually did a better job than Fox News has done in the past. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash's questions did admittedly have a certain Democrat framing to them, and they hit on topics that are perceived as helpful to the Democrats, such as abortion and January 6. But it was fairly subtle compared to moderators we've seen in the past, who argued with Trump and hectored him, not the least of which was, again, Christopher Wallace and Megyn Kelly in 2016, the Republican primary debate of only Rosie O'Donnell fame.
Quote, the bullying, the greed, the showing off, the misogyny, the absurd third-grade theatrics.
Now, to be fair, Chris Wallace was quoting Mitt Romney there, so it wasn't Chris Wallace calling Trump all these nasty names. But nonetheless, what a way to start a debate out. Jake Tapper didn't do that. Jake Tapper mentioned some things about Trump that could be seen as negative, such as the fact that he's been convicted 34 times and all that. But it's like, those are the facts. He has been convicted a lot of times, even though many of us find it to be unjust. You can't really hate Jake Tapper for merely mentioning it. So, in that regard, Jake Tapper, much more professional than Chris Wallace, who, ironically, now works at CNN after leaving Fox News. You don't hear much from Chris Wallace these days. That debate started with Christopher Wallace listing a string of adjectives meant to insult and defame Trump. It was truly bizarre, much more off the rails and unprofessional than what we saw from CNN. Ironically, haven't conservatives just spent the last, 5-8 years talking about how much CNN is a joke and CNN is fake news, etc.? Now, in this next clip, Tapper is going to ask Trump about the 34 convictions. He's going to say, like you said that you would be within your rights to get retribution. I do take issue with this question because how is your concern about political retribution towards Trump when, in fact, Trump's the one that's currently being persecuted by Biden? Isn't that kind of ironic? Like, he was convicted by his political opponents, and yet Trump is the one having to defend himself. But nonetheless, the fact that Trump, again, was convicted, it would be almost odd if Tapper didn't mention that. Jake Tapper's not responsible for Trump being convicted. He might approve of it or he might disapprove. Frankly, the Jake Tapper that we know would cheerlead that. But this Jake Tapper that showed up for the debate was Mr. Professional.
After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Tapper asked Trump to clarify why he thinks he has the right to go after his political opponents, which is kind of a loaded question, but it's like, this is the difference between Trump and Biden. Biden and his cronies actually did go after their political opponent. They just didn't give a soundbite saying they were going to do that. Trump, on the other hand, didn't go after his political opponents, but he kind of talked loose about it, so that gives Tapper some ammo in this question. I think Trump has said that in the spirit of, you're opening up a can of worms by persecuting me. But nonetheless, it wasn't exactly an unseemly question, just slightly misleading. So we compared a couple debates. We watched Chris Wallace, who had some kind of weird personal problem with Trump, and he took that out in the debate, which was wildly inappropriate. You can go back and look at clips of Megyn Kelly, and she similarly seemed to have a very personal problem, and Trump described that problem in menstrual terms at the time. Jake Tapper, I don't care if it's CNN, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash did a much better job than Fox News. And we weren't expecting that. Remember Caitlin Collins? She seemed extremely emotional and had a lot of animosity for Trump. So I was kind of expecting the same thing. But Jake Tapper said something to the effect that we're the moderators, we're not in the debate. And he stayed true to that. So whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, give the guy credit. Good job, Jake Tapper. I did a good job too. My name's Michael McCara. Thank you for watching. Follow me on Twitter. Visit my website, michaelmcarablog.com. Like this video if you liked it. And do subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it.
What love can do. And now I'm getting